The punch exploded stars across my vision right there on the hospital bed, the antiseptic smell mixing with the iron taste of blood at the corner of my mouth. "Stop acting innocent," he growled, and right then, the door burst open, the nurse's rubber soles squeaking to a halt. The monitor suddenly blared its alarm. I pressed the record button one last time, smiling this time. The story would be told exactly as it happened. My name is Mara Quinn, and I've spent the last 3 years rebuilding bodies at Pine Ridge Regional Hospital while my own family systematically tore me apart. At 29, I'd chosen the unglamorous path of physical therapy technician in Silverford, Ohio, a decision that became ammunition in every family gathering since my stepfather Randall Pierce married my mother 5 years ago. The cracks started showing at Sunday dinner last month. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift, my scrubs still carrying the faint scent of sanitizer when I walked into Mom's pristine dining room. Randall sat at the head of the table like a king surveying his domain, his silver hair perfectly styled, his polo shirt pressed to magazine perfection. My mother Evelyn fluttered around him, her movements bird-like and nervous, always anticipating his needs before he voiced them. "Look who finally graced us with her presence," Randall said, not looking up from his phone. "The servant girl." "Physical therapy technician," I corrected quietly, taking my usual seat, the one furthest from him. "Same difference. You wipe sweat and count repetitions while real medical professionals do the actual work." He finally looked at me, his gray eyes cold as January frost. "Your cousin Sloan just got promoted to regional sales director. Now that's a career." Sloan Archer. Of course. My younger cousin who'd somehow become the family's golden child. Despite burning through 3 marketing jobs in 2 years and constantly needing emergency loans that never got repaid, I'd been keeping track $3,950 so far, not that anyone wanted to hear about it. "Mara's job is important," Mom offered weakly, but Randall's sharp glance silenced her immediately. "Important." He laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "She makes $40,000 a year helping old people walk. Sloane's pulling 6 figures. I focused on cutting my chicken, keeping my breathing steady. This was the game provoke me until I snapped, then play the victim. But that night, something shifted. When I stood to clear my plate, Randall's hand shot out, gripping my shoulder hard enough to leave marks through my thin scrub top. No one else could see it from their angle. He'd perfected the art of hidden violence. "You're not excused," he said softly, his fingers digging deeper. "We need to discuss your contribution to Sloane's new apartment deposit." "I've already given—" His grip tightened, and I bit back a gasp. "Family helps family. Or have you forgotten who paid for your car repairs last year?" The car repairs I'd needed after he'd accidentally backed into my Honda in the driveway. The same repairs he'd insisted on handling through his mechanic friend who'd charged twice the normal rate. Everything was a transaction with Randall. Every kindness a debt to be collected with compound interest. That night, I started documenting everything. Screenshots of text messages demanding money at 2:45 in the morning, photos of the bruises blooming like purple roses on my shoulders and arms, voice recordings of his tirades about my worthless career and ungrateful attitude. The parking lot behind St. Mary's Church became his favorite ambush spot. No cameras, no witnesses, just his hands in my hair and his voice in my ear. "Stop acting innocent. You know what you owe this family." 3 weeks later, I sent him an email. Professional, detached, itemized. Every loan to Sloan, every payment I'd made, every dollar accounted for. I requested a repayment schedule, suggested monthly installments. His response came within minutes, a single line that would become his refrain: "Stop acting innocent." The next day, I bought a voice recorder pen from the spy shop downtown, the kind that looked like a normal ballpoint but could capture 8 hours of audio. I practiced activating it discreetly, muscle memory taking over until I could click it on without looking. Every time I had to see them, every family dinner, every orchestrated guilt trip, I recorded it all. Because I knew, deep in my bones, that this was building to something. Randall's control was slipping, and cornered animals always lashed out. The only question was when, and whether I'd be ready with enough evidence when he finally crossed the line from hidden bruises to something the world couldn't ignore. The manipulation cycle ran like clockwork: loan, humiliate, collect emotional debt, repeat. Sloane would text about some urgent crisis: her car breaking down, her rent being short, her credit card maxed out. Within hours, Randall would call, his voice dripping with disapproval. Your cousin needs help. Mara. Real family doesn't keep score. But I did keep score. Every transaction went into my spreadsheet, color-coded and dated. The 300 for Sloane's emergency spa weekend that became Instagram content. The 500 for her networking conference that turned out to be a music festival. The 800 for professional development courses she never attended. And always, Randall's voice in the background. Don't be selfish, Mara. We raised you better than that. The night shifts at Pine Ridge became my refuge. 3:15 a.m. in the physical therapy ward, counting out exercises with stroke patients, was peaceful compared to the psychological warfare at home. I'd stand in the break room, fluorescent lights humming overhead, sorting through my finances on my phone. Rent, utilities, student loans, groceries, every dollar allocated. Nothing left for Sloane's manufactured emergencies. Then came the text at 2:37 a.m. on a Tuesday. You owe this family everything. Don't forget who you really are. I knew who I was. I was the girl who'd worked 2 jobs through college while Sloane partied on her parents' credit cards. I was the one who'd chosen a career that actually helped people while she played dress-up in corporate America. I was the one keeping receipts. The confrontation in the church parking lot happened on a Thursday. I'd just finished evening mass, not because I was particularly religious, but because the meditation helped me stay centered. Randall's BMW idled next to my Honda, blocking me in. He got out slowly, deliberately, his shadow long in the security light that didn't quite reach where we stood. You've been avoiding us, he said, moving closer. I've been working. He spat the word like it tasted bad. While your cousin struggles to maintain the lifestyle that reflects well on this family, her lifestyle isn't my responsibility. That's when he grabbed my hair, yanking my head back so fast my recorder pen fell from my pocket. His face was inches from mine, his cologne mixing with the smell of his rage. Everything you have is because of us. That education, we co-signed the loans. That car, we helped you buy it. Stop acting innocent, you know exactly what you owe. He released me with a shove, and I scrambled for my pen, clicking it on as I stood. I've paid back every cent, with interest. Money isn't the only debt. Mara. The bruise on my scalp throbbed for days, hidden under my ponytail at work. But I had his words, his threats, his admission that this was never about money, it was about control. I started setting boundaries via email, creating a paper trail that couldn't be twisted. I can no longer provide financial assistance to Sloane. I've attached a summary of previous loans totaling $3,950. Please see the suggested repayment schedule. Randall's response came in person, showing up at the hospital during my shift. Security escorted him out, but not before he'd made a scene in front of my colleagues, calling me ungrateful, selfish, a disappointment to my mother. My supervisor, Janet, pulled me aside afterward. Is everything okay at home? She asked, her eyes kind but knowing. It's complicated, I said, the understatement of the century. It always is. But if you need resources, I know. Thank you. That night, I went to the spy shop again. This time, I bought a small camera that looked like a button, and I practiced sewing it onto my scrubs. If Randall wanted to escalate, I'd be ready. The owner, a retired cop named Murphy, didn't ask questions, just showed me how to sync everything to cloud storage. Sometimes, Murphy said quietly, the best defense is documentation. I thought about those words as I organized my evidence folders, text messages, emails, photos, recordings, a digital fortress against gaslighting. Randall had taught me one valuable lesson in a family that weaponized love. Proof was the only protection. The final straw came when Mom called, crying. Randall had convinced her I was mentally unstable, that my paranoid documentation was proof I needed help. She begged me to apologize, to come to dinner, to make things right. "What about making things right with me?" I asked. Silence. Then, "Stop acting innocent. Mara, you know how things work." I hung up and opened my laptop, typing out my resignation from the family. Not from my mother, I'd always love her, despite her weakness, but from the toxic system Randall had created. The next time he came for me, I'd be ready with more than just boundaries. I'd be ready with evidence that could put him away. The accident happened on a Wednesday afternoon in the physical therapy room. I was spotting Mr. Jameson, a 240-pound former construction worker recovering from hip surgery, when he lost his balance during a parallel bars exercise. Instinct took over. I threw myself between him and the equipment, catching most of his weight as we went down. My ribs met the metal bar with a crack that echoed through the room. "Code blue." "No, wait, code assist," someone shouted. The next few minutes blurred together, hands lifting me, questions about pain levels, the portable X-ray machine wheeling in. Dr. Miranda Reeves, the attending physician, frowned at the images on her tablet. "Suspected rib contusion, possible hairline fracture," she said, her fingers gently probing my right side. I hissed at the contact. "We need to keep you overnight for observation. These injuries can be tricky, sometimes complications don't show up immediately." "I'm fine, really." "Mara." Her tone brooked no argument. "You know the protocol. 24-hour observation for suspected rib fractures, especially when there's been trauma to the torso. We need to monitor for pneumothorax or internal bleeding." They moved me to a private room on the 3rd floor, a perk of being staff, though I'd have preferred the anonymity of a shared space. The room smelled of industrial disinfectant and that peculiar hospital blend of hope and despair. As the nurse adjusted my IV, my phone buzzed with texts. "Mom, heard about your accident. We're coming to visit." My stomach dropped. Not "I'm coming," but "we." I typed back quickly. "Not necessary. Just observation." "Mom, Randall insists. Family supports family." There it was, the twisted knife of obligation dressed up as concern. I could already see it playing out. Randall would arrive with flowers and sympathy for the public, then lean in close when we were alone to remind me how much I needed them, how vulnerable I was, how one word from him to hospital administration about my mental instability could end my career. I called the nursing station from my room phone. "This is Mara Quinn in 312. I need to speak with security about visitor restrictions." "Is there a problem, Han?" The charge nurse, Brenda, knew me well. "Potentially. I have a family member with a history of aggressive behavior. I'd like him flagged in the system. I'll send someone up." The security officer who arrived was Paul, a retired Marine who'd always been kind during my late shifts. I showed him selected text messages on my phone, keeping my voice clinical as I explained the situation. He took notes, his face growing harder with each detail. "We can put a restricted visitor alert on your chart," he said. "But if he's not been formally charged with anything—" "I know, he can still come during regular visiting hours. But at least there's documentation if something happens." Paul paused at the door. "You got anyone you trust who can be here with you?" I thought about it. My work friends were all on shift. I had no siblings, no close relatives except the ones causing the problem. "I'll be okay." That evening, Kelly Santos started her shift. I knew her by reputation, a 15-year veteran who'd transferred from Cleveland's trauma center. Tough as nails, but fiercely protective of her patients. She reviewed my chart with the focus of someone who'd seen too much to take anything at face value. "Says here you requested visitor restrictions," she said, adjusting my monitor leads with practiced efficiency. "Family drama. It's probably nothing." She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw recognition in her eyes. "It's never nothing. I've worked enough domestic cases to know the signs." She pulled up a chair, something nurses rarely had time to do. You want to talk about it. My stepfather, he's controlling, and he's angry that I've stopped playing by his rules. The financial abuse kind or the physical kind. Both. But he's smart about it. Never leaves marks where people can see. Never does anything with witnesses around. Kelly nodded slowly. I had one of those. My ex-husband. Took me 3 years to build enough evidence to get away safely. She stood, smoothing her scrubs. If he shows up during my shift, I'll be watching. And Mara, that call button stays in your hand. Someone like that comes in here. You hit it immediately. Don't wait to see if things escalate. After she left, I texted Mom again. If you visit, please come alone. Her response chilled me. Randall says that's exactly what someone unstable would request. We'll be there at 8. I looked at the clock, 6:43 p.m. Just over an hour to prepare. I positioned my phone on the bedside table, angled to capture the visitor's chair. I tested the call button, made sure it was wrapped around the bed rail within easy reach. Then I opened my voice recorder app and created a new folder, Hospital Documentation. The message from Randall came at 7:32 p.m. Stop acting innocent. You're going to learn tonight what happens when you embarrass this family. I screenshotted it, uploaded it to my cloud storage, and forwarded it to my personal email. Then I pressed the nurse call button. Everything okay? Hon. Brenda's voice crackled through the speaker. Could Kelly come in when she has a moment? I just received a concerning message from the restricted visitor. She'll be right there. The fluorescent lights in room 312 cast everything in stark, unforgiving clarity: the beige walls, the industrial blue chair, the white sheets that smelled of industrial bleach. Kelly arrived within minutes, her expression serious as she read Randall's message on my phone. This is a direct threat, she said, taking photos of the screen with her own device. I'm documenting this in your medical record and our incident system. What time did he say they're coming? 8. She checked her watch, 7:48 p.m. I'm adjusting your monitor settings. Any spike in heart rate or blood pressure will alert us immediately. The door stays closed but not locked hospital policy, but I'll be checking on you every 15 minutes instead of hourly. That seems excessive. No. What's excessive is a grown man threatening a patient in my unit. She moved the call button, wrapping the cord around my hand. You click this the second you feel unsafe, not when things get bad when you feel unsafe. Understood. I nodded, throat tight. Kelly pulled the visitor's chair closer to the bed, then stopped, reconsidering. Actually, let's rearrange. She pushed the chair back against the wall, creating maximum distance between where Randall would sit and where I lay. Harder for him to grab you without obviously lunging across the space. That movement alone would justify immediate intervention. She showed me how she'd adjusted the monitor my vitals displayed not just at my bedside, but prominently at the nurse's station. We see your heart rate jump. We come running. No questions asked. Won't the other nurses think? The other nurses think what I tell them to think, and I'm telling them we have a potential security situation. She paused at the door. I've worked trauma for 15 years. Mara, I've seen what family visits can turn into. You know what mandatory reporting is. When healthcare workers have to report suspected abuse. Exactly. And if I witness anything that suggests assault, I'm legally obligated to act. That's not a choice. It's law. Her eyes were fierce. Some people think hospitals are safe spaces for violence because we're supposed to be neutral, caring, non-judgmental. They're wrong. This is my domain, and nobody hurts my patients. After she left, I set up my phone more carefully, propping it against the water pitcher. The angle captured both the chair and most of my bed. I started recording, then dimmed the screen. The small red recording dot was barely visible unless you knew to look for it. 7:56 p.m. I heard my mother's voice in the hallway, high and nervous, asking about visiting hours. Randall's deeper tone rumbled beneath hers, authoritative, demanding. My heart rate climbed 78, 82, 85. The monitor beeped softly. Kelly's voice cut through theirs, professional but firm. Visiting hours end at 9. The patient needs rest. One at a time. Please. We're her parents, Randall said. Surely we can. One at a time. Hospital policy. Mrs. Pierce, would you like to go first? There was shuffling, murmured conversation I couldn't make out. Then my door opened, and Mom entered alone, carrying a grocery store bouquet of carnations, my least favorite flowers. But she never remembered that. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in the equipment, the monitors, everything but me. How are you feeling? She set the flowers on the windowsill without waiting for an answer. Randall's very concerned. He wants to make sure you're getting proper care. I work here. Mom, I'm getting excellent care. She finally looked at me, and I saw the exhaustion beneath her perfectly applied makeup. Why are you doing this to us? The security alerts, the restrictions. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing, Mom. He threatened me. He's stressed. Sloane's having financial troubles, and you've abandoned the family when we need you most. She twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit that had gotten worse since marrying Randall. He just wants to talk to you, to make sure you understand. Understand what? Your obligations, your responsibilities. We've done so much for you. Mara. The monitor beeped again. 90 beats per minute. You should go, I said quietly. Let him have his turn. She looked relieved to escape, practically running from the room. I had 30 seconds, maybe less. I pulled up my recording app on my tablet, started a second backup recording, and slipped it under my pillow. The call button was sick with sweat in my palm. Randall entered like he owned the place, closing the door with deliberate slowness. He didn't speak at first, just stood there, studying me like a specimen pinned to a board. The fluorescent lights caught the silver at his temples, the cold calculation in his eyes. Quite the production, he said finally, settling into the chair. Security alerts, restricted visitor lists, all for a few text messages. You threatened me. I promised you consequences. There's a difference. He pulled out a folder from his jacket, official-looking papers covered in dense text. Since you like documentation so much, I thought we should formalize our family arrangements. He stood, moved closer. The monitor showed 95 beats per minute. A loan agreement, retroactive, covering all the support we've provided over the years. He placed the papers on my bedside table, pulled out an expensive pen. Sign it. No. Sign it, or I'll have a conversation with hospital administration about your mental state, your paranoid delusions, your obsessive documentation of normal family interactions. 100 beats per minute. The monitor's beeping grew insistent. Stop acting innocent, he said, leaning closer. I could smell his cologne, see the rage building behind his controlled facade. You know exactly what you owe us. Sign the papers. No. That's when his mask finally slipped, and I saw the real Randall Pierce, the one who grabbed hair in church parking lots, who left bruises where clothes would cover them, who'd spent years building a prison of obligation and calling it family. His hand reached for the papers. The call button was ready in mine. His hand shot out faster than I expected, grabbing my wrist and twisting it toward the papers. Sign it, now! Let go. Stop acting innocent. The words exploded from him as his other hand connected with my face, not a closed fist, but an open palm that snapped my head sideways. The monitors shrieked. 110, 115. He grabbed the front of my hospital gown, yanking me up from the pillow. You ungrateful little... I dropped the call button, using that hand to grab the bed rail, and with my other hand, I yanked the monitor leads. Alarms screamed. The door was closed, but I knew the nurse's station was lighting up like a Christmas tree. You think you're so smart. He shoved me back down, his elbow driving into my injured ribs. Lightning shot through my torso, recording everything, documenting everything. You're nothing without us. Nothing. I couldn't breathe through the pain, but I managed to gasp out. Everything is being Recorded. He saw my phone then, propped against the water pitcher, the camera lens staring at him like an accusing eye. His face went from red to purple. You little... He lunged for the phone, but I grabbed the pitcher first, water flying everywhere, drenching the loan papers. He caught my wrist again, squeezing until I thought the bones would snap. "Sign the papers," he hissed, his face inches from mine. "Or I swear to God." That's when I played my last card. The phone's not the only camera. He froze, eyes darting around the room. The button camera on my gown, tiny and innocuous, was perfectly positioned to capture his face, his hands on me. Everything. "You're lying. Check my browser history. Spy shop on Maple Street." His grip loosened just enough for me to hit the call button with my knee 3 times. Hard. The emergency pattern. "I'll destroy you," he growled, grabbing my throat this time. Not hard enough to leave marks, but enough to make his point. "Your career, your reputation. Already destroying yourself." He raised his hand again, and this time I didn't flinch. I stared straight at him, letting every second record, every moment document itself. The monitor showed 130 beats per minute, 135. "Stop acting innocent," he said one more time, and his fist came down toward my ribs. The door burst open so hard it bounced off the wall. Kelly stood there with another nurse, a male one, built like a linebacker and a security guard. They took in the scene in a heartbeat, Randall leaning over me, his hand raised, my gown twisted, water everywhere, the papers soaked and scattered, the monitors screaming their alarms. "Step away from the patient, now!" Kelly's voice could have frozen hell. Randall straightened slowly, his public mask sliding back into place. "This is a private family matter. My stepdaughter is having an episode. Sir, step away from the patient immediately, or security will remove you." The male nurse, whose badge read Marcus, moved between Randall and my bed. "I'm her father. You're about to be arrested," Kelly said, already documenting with her tablet, speaking each observation aloud. 8:43 p.m., entered room to respond to emergency call pattern and cardiac monitor alarms. Found visitor Randall Pierce in physical contact with patient, hand raised in threatening gesture. Patient shows visible facial erythema consistent with slap injury. Hospital gown displaced. Patient in obvious distress. Heart rate 135. Blood pressure elevated. Marcus. Get vitals now. "This is ridiculous," Randall said, but he backed toward the door. "She's mentally unstable. She's been recording family conversations, making up stories. The stories that leave marks." Kelly pulled my collar aside slightly, revealing the fresh red marks on my throat. "These marks, sir, the ones I'm photographing right now for the legal record." The security guard, Paul, I realized, must have called for backup spoken to his radio. "Need SPD response to Pine Ridge Regional, 3rd floor, room 312. Assault on a patient. She fell." Randall tried. "She grabbed me when she fell." "Stop," I said, my voice hoarse but clear. I held up my phone, still recording. "Stop acting innocent." The look on his face when I threw his favorite phrase back at him, that moment of pure, unfiltered rage dropping into recognition, was worth every bruise. "The patient appears to have video evidence," Kelly announced, still narrating for the record. "Requesting supervisor and law enforcement response. Paul, please ensure Mr. Pierce does not leave this floor." Randall looked at the door, calculating, but Marcus stepped into his path. 6'3" of former college football player stood between Randall and escape. "I want my wife," Randall demanded. "Evelyn needs to see what her daughter—" "Your wife can visit after we've documented all injuries and taken the patient's statement," Kelly said. She turned to me, her eyes softening slightly. "Mara, I need to examine you now. The police will want photos of everything." The monitor showed my heart rate finally dropping 120, 115, 110. I was safe. For the first time in 5 years, I was actually safe. And Randall Pierce knew it. The moment crystallized like a photograph, Kelly and Marcus flanking my bed, Paul blocking the exit, and Randall standing there with his mask completely shattered, his hand still raised as if frozen in the act. The fluorescent lights caught every detail, the water dripping from the overturned pitcher, the ruined loan papers dissolving into pulp, the red marks blooming on my throat like a signature. 8:45 p.m., Kelly announced, her voice cutting through the monitor alarms. Patient Mara Quinn presents with fresh trauma following visitor interaction, visible contusions to face, linear markings on throat consistent with grip pressure. Patient's existing rib injury site shows signs of additional trauma. She turned to Marcus. Get the camera from the crash cart. We need everything documented before she moves. You can't, Randall started forward, but Paul's hand went to his radio. Sir, you need to remain exactly where you are. Silverford PD is en route. Kelly continued her clinical narration, each word another nail in Randall's coffin. Patient's hospital gown torn at the shoulder seam. Defensive bruising forming on right wrist. Monitor logs show cardiac distress beginning at 8:38 p.m., escalating to emergency levels at 8:42 p.m. She pulled on fresh gloves with the snap of latex, then gently touched my face, turning it toward the light. Mara, I need you to tell me exactly what happened. Speak clearly for the record. My throat hurt, but my voice came out steady. Mr. Pierce entered at 8:37 p.m. He presented loan documents and demanded I sign them. When I refused, he struck me across the face, grabbed my throat, and drove his elbow into my pre-existing rib injury. She's lying. Sir, you're being recorded. Paul interrupted, pointing to the security camera I hadn't even noticed in the corner. Has been since you entered. The color drained from Randall's face. He looked up at the camera, then at my phone still recording, then at the button camera on my gown. The walls of evidence were closing in. Marcus returned with the medical camera, its flash harsh and clinical as Kelly documented each mark. 3 distinct finger impressions on the right lateral neck, petechiae forming under the left eye, swelling visible on the right zygomatic arch, that's your cheekbone. Mara. My mother's voice echoed from the hallway, shrill and demanding. What's happening? Why can't I see my daughter? Ma'am, please remain in the waiting area, another security guard said. Evidence preservation protocol activated, Kelly announced. Marcus, bag those papers, they're evidence now. Don't let anyone touch them. She looked directly at Randall. Mr. Pierce, I'm obligated under Ohio state law to report this assault. This is not optional. This is mandatory reporting. You don't understand. Randall tried one more time, his businessman persona making a desperate comeback. This is a family matter. She's been mentally unstable. The only instability I see, Kelly said, pulling up my medical history on her tablet, is a pattern of suspicious injuries over the past 3 years, 2 ER visits for falls, a concussion from walking into a door, bruised ribs from tripping downstairs, all documented in different hospitals, but the electronic records connect. She looked at him with undisguised contempt. We see patterns, Mr. Pierce. We're trained to see them. The door opened again. 2 Silverford police officers entered, their body cameras already recording. The first one, Officer Martinez, according to his badge, took in the scene with practiced eyes. We need everyone to stay exactly where they are. Martinez said, Who's the reporting party? I am, Kelly said. Kelly Santos, RN. I responded to an emergency call and witnessed Mr. Randall Pierce assaulting a patient in our care. That's not. Sir, you'll have your chance to speak. Officer Martinez said, Right now, we need to secure the scene. He turned to me. Ma'am, are you able to give a statement? Yes, I said, then held up my phone. And I have video. Multiple videos, I added, pointing to the button camera. From different angles. plus audio recordings from previous incidents. Officer Martinez's partner, Officer Chen, began photographing the room from multiple angles while Martinez approached Randall. "Sir, I need you to turn around and place your hands behind your back." "This is insane." "I'm filing a complaint." "Sir, you're under arrest for assault and battery in a healthcare facility. You have the right to remain silent." As the cuffs clicked around Randall's wrists, I watched 5 years of fear dissolve. He was just a man now, not a monster, not an authority figure, just a 60-year-old bully in handcuffs being led away by officers half his age. "The hospital will provide all medical documentation," Kelly told Officer Chen. "We have the monitor logs showing exact times of distress, security footage, and my witnessed account, plus my statement," Marcus added. "I saw him with his hand on her throat when we entered." "And mine," Paul said. "I've been documenting threatening behavior from this visitor all evening." The small room had become a crime scene, with everyone playing their part in the machinery of justice. Randall Pierce, who'd spent years crafting a perfect public image, was being unmasked by the very institution he'd tried to infiltrate with his violence. "Mara," Officer Chen said gently, "we'll need you to come to the station when you're medically cleared. But we can take your initial statement here. The video evidence will be crucial." I handed over my phone, showing them how to access the recordings, the cloud backups, the folder of previous incidents, years of evidence, waiting for this moment. "Stop acting innocent," I said to Randall as they led him past my bed. "For once in your life, stop acting innocent." The hallway erupted the moment they led Randall out. My mother's voice pierced through the clinical quiet like a siren shrill, desperate, accusatory. "What have you done?" She tried to push past the security guard, her perfectly manicured nails clawing at the air. "Mara, what have you done to him?" "Ma'am, please step back," Officer Martinez said firmly. "This is an active investigation." "Investigation. She's lying. She's always been jealous of our family, always trying to cause problems." Kelly stepped into the hallway, closing my door most of the way but leaving it cracked. I could hear everything. "Mrs. Pierce, your husband was caught assaulting a patient. We have video evidence, witness testimony, and medical documentation of injuries." She made those up. "She's been planning this look at her, recording everything, setting him up to punch her." Marcus's deep voice carried clearly. "To strangle her, ma'am. I saw it with my own eyes." Through the crack in the door, I watched my mother's face crumble and rebuild itself in real time, cycling through denial, rage, and finally, cold calculation. "I want to see my daughter, now." "After we've completed our investigation," Kelly said, "and only with security present." Shh! The hospital's legal team arrived within 20 minutes, 2 lawyers in crisp suits despite the 9:15 p.m. timing. They introduced themselves as Ms. Harrison and Mr. Delgado, their expressions professionally grave as they reviewed Kelly's documentation. "Miss Quinn," Ms. Harrison said, "the hospital takes violence against our staff very seriously. We'll be pursuing charges not just for assault, but for disruption of a medical facility and threatening hospital personnel." "I just want this to be over," I said, exhaustion hitting me like a wave. "It will be," Mr. Delgado assured me. "But first, we need to discuss immediate safety measures. We're recommending an emergency protective order. The court can issue one tonight based on the evidence." My phone, now in an evidence bag, buzzed with incoming messages. "Officer Chen, no." "Officer Williams," I corrected myself. Checking his badge again held it up so I could see the screen through the plastic. 17 missed calls from Mom. 43 text messages. The last one visible in the notification. "You've destroyed our family." "We'll need those for evidence too," Williams said. "Shows a pattern of harassment immediately following arrest." Kelly brought in a hospital advocate, a woman named Sarah who specialized in domestic violence cases. She sat beside my bed, her presence calm and grounding as she explained the next steps. "The emergency protective order will be in place for 72 hours. During that time, you can file for a permanent restraining order. With this level of evidence, it should be granted easily. What about my mom? Sarah's expression softened. That's your choice, but enabling violence is its own form of abuse. She watched him hurt you for years and chose to look away. Through the partially open door, I heard my mother's voice rising again, this time directed at someone on the phone. Sloan, you need to get here now. Your cousin has lost her mind. She's having Randall arrested. Yes, arrested. Within an hour, the hallway was chaos. Sloan had arrived with her boyfriend and two other cousins I barely knew. They stood in a cluster, voices overlapping in outrage and disbelief. Not one of them asked if I was okay. She's always been dramatic. Sloan's voice carried clearly. Remember when she wouldn't lend me money for that conference so selfish? Mr. Pierce has done everything for her, another cousin added. Paid for her education, helped with her car. All of which she paid back with interest. Kelly interjected, stepping into the hallway again. I've seen the documentation. Now, visiting hours are over. Everyone needs to leave. We're family, Sloan protested. And the patient has explicitly refused visitors. Security will escort you out. The shouting intensified. Someone, I think it was Sloan's boyfriend, threw a punch at Paul. Bad decision. Within seconds, 3 more security guards materialized, and Silverford PD was being called back. Ms. Harrison poked her head into my room. We're filing additional charges for hospital disruption. Your family is creating quite the paper trail. I almost laughed at the irony. Randall had taught me the value of documentation, and now his entire family was documenting their own downfall in real time, on hospital security cameras, in front of multiple witnesses. Dr. Reeves arrived to check my injuries again, her gentle hands examining the new damage layered over the old. We're keeping you for at least 48 hours now. The trauma to your ribs is significant. I need to get back to work. You need to heal. And frankly, this is the safest place for you right now. She squeezed my shoulder gently. The entire staff is talking about what happened. You have more support than you realize. By 10:30 p.m., the hallway was finally quiet. The family had been removed, trespassing warnings issued. My mother had tried one last time to see me, but I'd refused. The emergency protective order had been filed electronically, approved by a judge who'd been woken up specifically for this case. Kelly returned during a quiet moment, pulling up a chair beside my bed. In 15 years of nursing, that was one of the most clear-cut cases of assault I've witnessed. He didn't even try to hide it by the end. He was so sure I'd never fight back, I said, that I'd never have enough proof. But you did. Years of it. She smiled slightly. That spy shop receipt in your browser history was brilliant, by the way. His face when you mentioned the button camera priceless. My tablet, which hadn't been taken as evidence, chimed with an email notification. It was from hospital administration. All staff should be aware that Randall Pierce is permanently banned from all facilities in our healthcare network. His photo has been added to the security database. Another small victory. Another wall built between him and me. Get some rest, Kelly said, adjusting my IV. Tomorrow, you'll give your full statement. The detective assigned to your case specializes in domestic violence. She's good, really good. As she turned to leave, I called out, Kelly, that thing you said about mandatory reporting, you would have reported it anyway, wouldn't you? Even if it wasn't required. She looked back, her expression fierce and protective. In a heartbeat. Nobody hurts my patients. Nobody. The fluorescent lights in the hallway cast harsh shadows as they brought him back through at 11:47 p.m. for formal booking. The handcuffs caught the light like mirrors, clicking against each other with every step. I stood at my doorway, supported by Marcus on one side and Kelly on the other, making sure Randall Pierce saw me watching. His expensive suit was wrinkled now, his silver hair mussed, his face stripped of its usual authority. He looked smaller somehow, diminished, just an aging bully in metal bracelets being led by officers young enough to be his children. Transport will be here in 5, Officer Williams announced, his voice echoing off the sterile walls. "We're taking him to county for processing." The entire third-floor nursing staff had somehow found reasons to be in that hallway. They stood like sentinels witnesses to the final act of a 5-year performance. Even Dr. Reeves emerged from another patient's room, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes conveying clear support. My mother sat in the waiting area, visible through the glass doors, her perfect makeup streaked with mascara tears. She'd been calling Randall's lawyer, his golf buddies, anyone who might help. But assault in a medical facility with multiple witnesses and video evidence, even his country club connections couldn't make that disappear. "Mara Quinn," Randall said suddenly, his voice carrying that old commanding tone one last time. "You think you've won?" "No," I said, my voice steady despite the pain in my ribs. "I know I have. Your career is over. No one will hire someone who destroys their own family." "Mr. Pierce," Ms. Harrison interrupted smoothly. "Threats against a witness are additional charges. I'd advise you to remain silent." But I stepped forward, just enough to be clearly heard. "My family was destroyed the day you entered it. I'm just cleaning up the wreckage." The security camera in the corner blinked red, recording everything. My phone, still in evidence, had captured his assault. The button camera had his rage. The monitor logs showed my distress. Kelly's testimony, Marcus's witness statement, Paul's security report, layers upon layers of truth, each one stripping away another piece of his carefully constructed lie. "She owes us everything." He struggled against the officer's grip, his mask completely gone now. The ungrateful, "Stop!" My voice cut through his tirade. "Stop acting innocent." The words hung in the air like a verdict. His own favorite phrase, the one he'd used to gaslight me for years, now turned into the final nail in his coffin. Around us, the medical staff stood witness to the truth he'd tried so hard to hide. Officer Martinez stepped forward. "Time to go." They led him past me, close enough that I could smell his expensive cologne mixed with the sour scent of fear. Close enough to see the moment he finally understood that his control was an illusion, shattered by fluorescent lights and security cameras and the simple act of refusing to sign papers I didn't owe. "The transport vehicle is here," Williams announced. Through the hallway windows, I watched them load him into the police car. The red and blue lights painted the hospital walls in alternating colors, warning and safety, danger and rescue. The end and the beginning all at once. Kelly guided me back to bed, checking my vitals one more time. "Your heart rate's normal," she said with a small smile. "First time all night." "First time in 5 years, I corrected. My tablet chimed with a notification from the court system. "Emergency protective order granted. Respondent Randall Pierce prohibited from contact for 72 hours pending full hearing." Then another from hospital HR, counseling services available, paid administrative leave approved for recovery, full support from Pine Ridge Regional Hospital family. The real kind, the ones who protected instead of prayed, who witnessed instead of turned away, who stood up instead of enabling. Sarah, the advocate, returned with final paperwork. "The detective will be here at 9 tomorrow for your full statement, with everything documented tonight. The prosecutor's already talking about felony charges." Through the glass doors, I watched my mother finally leave, Sloane supporting her dramatic exit. Neither looked back. Neither asked about my injuries. Their choice was made, and it freed me from 29 years of trying to earn love that was always conditional, always weighted with obligation, always just out of reach. "You did the right thing," Kelly said quietly, adjusting my blanket. "Don't let anyone tell you different." The clock showed 12:23 a.m. when the hallway finally quieted. The crime scene tape was gone. The police departed. The family dispersed. Just me in a hospital bed, surrounded by monitors that no longer screamed warnings because the danger had been removed in handcuffs. I pulled up my phone's cloud storage on the tablet, looking at years of evidence finally serving its purpose. every recording, every photo, every screenshot breadcrumbs leading to this moment where Randall Pierce learned that some debts can't be collected, some control can't be maintained, and some victims refuse to stay silent. The last video was still there, waiting to be turned over to prosecutors in the morning. His voice, clear and undeniable, "Stop acting innocent." His hand, raised and striking. His rage, finally documented under the unforgiving fluorescent lights that stripped away all pretense. Tomorrow would bring statements and prosecutors and probably more family drama. But tonight, for the first time in 5 years, I could breathe without fear. My ribs hurt with each inhale, but it was clean pain injury that would heal, not the suffocating weight of secrets and manipulation. I looked at the spot where they'd arrested him, where the industrial tile still showed scuff marks from his expensive shoes as they dragged him away. The handcuffs had caught the light perfectly. I remembered silver circles binding the hands that had hurt me, controlled me, tried to reduce me to nothing but debt and obligation. "Stop acting innocent," I whispered to the empty room, to the memory of his arrest, to the ghost of 5 years of abuse. The whole hospital saw who you really are. The monitor beeped steadily, 68 beats per minute, calm, safe, free. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please comment below and let's connect. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts on what justice means to you. Your support means everything.